Hey, 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 hey. I am super pumped. Why? Because I get to talk to one of my favorite people, which are HRpreneurs. Listen, if this is your first time watching, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Hennifer Bianca Gant. And one of the things that I do is that I teach and equip HR professionals how to turn their HR skills into a profitable business. Now, here is the deal. Here's the deal. I know that if you are a true HR professional, that means that you get it done. That means you are the type of person that you are able to multitask, employee relations, recruitment, policy development, you just name it, right? I know that you know all of it. And the reality is that there are so many different things that we do as HR professionals that can truly be transferred into our own businesses. Let me just give you a quick little recap regarding my background, who the heck I am, and why I'm so passionate about teaching other HRpreneurs how to turn their HR skills into a profitable business. So I got into HR almost 2 decades ago. Almost 2 decades ago. And I really feel like HR was a calling to me. Like it called me, right? But truly now, after all this time, I recognize how impactful this field is. And I've had experience in working. My first job out of college was working for a nonprofit. I went on to work for Fortune 500 companies, went off to work with the federal government before I took a leap of faith and started my own company full time. And again, I've touched just about everything. And, with my eyes closed, I'm not good at a lot of things, but I am good at HR, just saying. And listen, if you're watching, like there's most of you that are going to be saying the same, like, I know some HR. But when I had the idea to start my own HR company, I didn't know that knowing HR wasn't enough. Knowing HR was not enough to start an HR business. And I'll share with you why in a little minute. So I literally got the name of the company in a dream. And I knew it was something I was supposed to start. But listen, I was so just nervous about it all. I didn't really start. Or let me just tell you this. I started the company. I registered the company rather. Okay. And I didn't do anything with it. I know I am not the only one. How many of you all started a company, but you didn't do anything with it? I know I'm not the only one. Even if you're watching a replay, I want you to go ahead and say, me too, Henny, me too, right? And if I look back, it was definitely fear. Fear of success, though, not necessarily fear of failure, because I was working at a good old government job and I love them. They love me. And till this day, I'm still friends with many of the people that I worked with all that time ago. And it was just a fear of success because if I succeeded, that meant that I would have to leave all of the things that I'm familiar with. It meant that I had to explain to people that I was taking a faith move and that I believed in what God said I was capable of, regardless of the limitations that are put on by man. Meaning that I was leaving good for God. Somebody will catch that later. I was literally leaving what was good for what God was saying. But again, I was disobedient. And I don't know if you've ever found yourself in a position of delayed disobedience, but that was me because I was like, well, the voice was just so loud and I kept hearing that I was supposed to start this company. And so I was like, well, let me just go ahead and register the company. So I was like, well, at least I did that. And I registered the company, God, I registered the company. I did something, but I wasn't doing anything in it. right? I wasn't doing anything in it. So maybe it was like a year, few years later, I was doing resumes. I've always been doing resumes, right? Because once people know that you are in HR, you know what happens. They want you to take a look at their resume. So I've already been doing that, but I started charging for it. I started charging for the resumes, and I laugh at the prices that I charge now. We're going to talk about some pricing today, but maybe not. I do have some questions that people sent in. But needless to say, I started doing people's resumes, and I'm like, whoa, this is, people were getting results. People were getting interviews that hadn't been getting interviews. People were getting jobs that, they've been applying for several jobs on their own. But as soon as they started working with me, they started, getting positions, and people started getting interested in them. So I'm like, wow, this is really a thing. But honestly, my heart, I just wanted to serve the people, right? So I really wasn't charging much, but I knew that I needed to start charging. I started understanding taxes and how beneficial it was for you to have your own company. And I was like, hey, if I have this company registered, I might as well start charging. Okay. So I was offering resumes, and little by little, again, all the success stories were coming in. And it was easier for me to do resumes because I could do, I was working with other working professionals anyway. So when I was at work, it was cool because they were at work too, right? And I was able to do some of that work, in the evening or on the weekends. Well, I started running across a few of my friends that have businesses, and just conversation started recognizing the fact that they needed HR too. They would make comments like, oh yeah, I just hired somebody as an independent contractor. And I told them that if they don't come to this meeting, just examples like that. It wasn't that specific example, but examples like that. And like, that doesn't sound like an independent contractor to me. That sounds more like an employee. So again, it just kind of like opened up, another door opened up, because I just knew this stuff, and I am a geek for HR compliance. So started offering, advice, and start making up packages for, some of my friends. And now that I'm looking back at it, like I have to maybe go back and thank them for believing in me enough to pay me. Because you all know there are some people that are like, hey, can you do it for free? Can you do this for free? And yeah, right. And now thinking about it in retrospect, like the fact that they knew that I wasn't, all the way in business yet, and I had a job, they were still open to pay me. So lo and behold, I started offering services to small companies, and not too many, just a few. But what I realized is that was working professionals and the business owners, right? Because the business owners, these friends of mine, they were already working in their business full time. Okay. So they were expecting responses during the day when I was at work. And there was definitely a conflict, because by the time I got off of work to take care of my son, and I was in grad school too, nothing but the grace of God, trying to tell you, right? I'm not responding to them until 8 o'clock at night, right? And then I can't respond to them until 8 o'clock at night the next day. So that was definitely a challenge. And I realized that I needed to get some help. So I went on Facebook, and one day I was just kind of, scrolling, and came across a company that said they provided resume services in Baltimore. And I was like, great, I should partner with them. Long story short, that person is now my husband. We met at Panera Bread, and the rest is history. So you can see why HR is just so important to me. I've not only been able to directly impact the lives of hundreds, I would probably say thousands of people professionally, literally just through hiring and or resumes, contributing to selection process, but I've also been able to contribute to the success of companies that were out of compliance, and we literally saved them thousands of dollars just by doing an audit, or we saved them in just thousands of hours of headaches, right? Because we were able to go in, facilitate, mediate different things that needed to be done. I truly believe that HR is a profession that can impact the the trajectory of someone's legacy. You see, most people are working at their jobs more than they are spending time with their families. And being in HR, you get the capacity to be able to influence somebody's benefits, how much they get paid when they come to work, all different types of things, whether or not they get fired, how how the layoffs are going to be. As HR professionals, we get to influence the decisions that impact somebody's livelihood. So it has been my absolute pleasure in working with other integrity filled HR professionals that don't want to just do HR, but they want to impact lives. I love working with people that love HR, because if you don't, you're going to get annoyed by me, okay? Because I always come from the lens of being able to serve the masses. So, with that being said, when I finally made a decision to really take this, a side hustle into an actual and turn it into a business, I realized that the business of HR is what I needed most help with. So I went and started asking different questions of different people that I knew were in HR consulting. And the reality was that, there were some people that did talk to me, but there were many, it was almost like they didn't want to give me the juice. It's like me asking for grape juice and they only gave me a grape. It just, what is happening here? Okay. But like seriously, because it's like you just gonna give me a piece of it, not all of it. So I started asking questions of other business owners. And bottom line is that I was, because of being able to talk to other people in different fields beyond HR, I was able to get some best practices across industries, which was absolutely phenomenal. So I have made so many mistakes. I have done so many things wrong. But it also now has put me in a position to do many things right. And throughout that experience, I've been able to capture all of that information into a course program, and I teach other HRpreneurs how to start their own HR consulting businesses, whether there's an HR professional that wants to just support career working professionals or those that want to work with companies. Either way, I've been on both ends. So I really just get so passionate about helping other HRpreneurs in that light. Okay. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So let's get into some Q&A questions that I have, okay? That I know was sent in. I know this is lunchtime for many of you. Um, all right. So here's one of the first questions that I have. Working 9 to 5, right? So this Q&A is all about working. Can you start your HR business while still working? If you all are still working and you are interested in starting your HR business, I want you to go ahead and put it in the chat. Let me know, still working, still working, still working. Okay. Just let me know, still working, still working, still working. Okay. So it is definitely possible, but there are definitely some things, again, that I think some of these questions that we have is going to help us with that. Okay. So one of the first questions is, how did you make the time? How did you make the time to still work and work in your business? One of the most powerful concepts that was introduced to me through a coach that I invested in, actually, when I started investing in myself, that's when I really saw things started changing. Like, okay, that's when I started replacing my full-time income, all types of stuff, right? But one of the concepts that was introduced to me that changed my life, changed my life, was the concept of in business versus on business. In business versus on business. And I'm telling you what, that changed the trajectory of my life. Now, I always don't get it right. But the reality is that if you start to schedule your time from in business and on business, you will see a dramatic change. Okay. So here's what I mean. If you obviously, your schedule at work, right? You know what your schedule is at work. So what you want to do is that you want to get a calendar. Okay. And I know there's some of you like, well, I already know my schedule. Why do I need a calendar? I'm telling you, it's just magic in writing things down. You want to get a calendar. You want to get a calendar. And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to block out times that you know that you have something to do, i.e., your job, and you want to see what other windows of time that you have available. Because a lot of people, will use the excuse, well, I don't have time. I'm already working. I can't start my own HR company. I work from 9 to 5 and I don't get home till 6. Listen, I did it and you can do it too. God is no respecter of persons. And I'm telling you, if I tell you my the inside scoop of my story, I had even more limited time. Okay. So I'm telling you, you can do it. But putting your schedule down is one of the very first steps. Okay. One of the very first steps. Because what you'll realize is that in your calendar, you'll realize that yes, you work from 9 to 5, right? But what time do you leave for work? You might say, oh, I leave for work at 8:30 or 8 o'clock. Okay. And I don't get home till 6. Well, what can you do before 8 o'clock? What can you do before 8 o'clock? Seriously, right? What in the world are you able to do before you leave for work? Before you leave for work, what are you able to do when you get home? And the myth is that the myth is that because you're working 8 hours in your business, 8 hours at work, that you have to work 8 hours in your business. And if you're working a full-time job, that might be possible, but in many instances, it is not. It is not. So you need to figure out how much time you really have to dedicate. So it might be 30 minutes in the morning because you have to get your children together. It might be 15 minutes in the evening. It might be Saturday. It might be Friday. Whatever it is, you need to see your complete schedule right away and begin to identify what time blocks you have available to actually work on your business. Now, once you've identified those time slots, what you want to do is um, identify the things that you need to do in your business or on your business. So let me explain. So working in your business means those are the things that you were doing that directly generates revenue. Directly generates revenue. Okay. So for example, speaking to a prospective customer, right? Like that's in your business. Okay, that's in your business. But developing your website, that's an example of on your business. Okay, in your business, on your business, let me just break down that definition. Are the tasks or the activities that are required, that are necessary for your business to fully operate, but they don't necessarily generate income right away, right? So again, the website is an example. Putting together your business plan is an example, right? Your social media strategy, developing your social media strategy is an example. But in today's age, I'm telling you, like you need some social media, some social media, period, right? So that's how and that in business versus on business wasn't necessarily introduced to me right away. But I'm telling you, if it would be a total game changer for any of you currently working at your job, but desiring to really start your HR company. Look at that planner, look at your schedule. That's totally one of the ways that's going to change the game, especially if you are currently working. Is that helpful? Awesome, 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 awesome. So let's go to the next question. Next question that I see here. Okay, so this looks like a sub question. How many hours should I be dedicating if I'm working 9 to 5? How many hours should I be dedicating to my business is what I'm imagining this question being. And my thought on that is that, there's no magic number, but if you can carve out at least 5, that would be ideal. At least 5, right? 5 to 10 is a really great place to start. because there're just a lot of things that you're going to have to do up front. And that's one of the things I teach in my course and my live program that's coming up, is the fact that once you get there's a lot of work to do up front. Okay, there's a lot of work to do up front, but once you get that out of the way, you now have things in place to be positioned to, all you have to do now is just take your next customer. you know but again, a lot of people just kind of get stuck in the things that you have to do up front. And I also share in the program, and when I do some coaching, one-on-one coaching, is that you don't have to have it all together for you to start. Why can't you fumble through it and start anyway? Why don't you just start anyway? What would happen if you put fear aside and still pursued it anyway? What would happen if you put the spirit of perfection aside and you did it anyway? What would happen? Because that's what I did, because our website sucked. We had no internal processes. I'm trying to tell you, I remember the first time we had a company that said, oh, great. I didn't think they were going to say that they were interested right away, because they were asking me, well, tell me about your programs, your packages. And I was just spitting it off, making it up. I was like, oh yeah, our program is this, that, and the other, right? And I was like, oh great. Well, how do I get started? And I was like, how do we get started? I didn't know how to get started. I was just fumbling through all types of stuff. And I'm telling you, that's the reason I'm so passionate about it, because a lot of those things were stopped me sometimes. Instead of me continuing, those served as barriers, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I don't have this stuff together. So I teach all of that stuff. Like, you won't have any excuse at the end of the day to not start your HR business. You won't have any excuse once you go through this program. You won't have any excuse whatsoever, right? No excuse. All right, let's take a few more questions. Should I charge what I'm being paid at work? Or another price? How should I price? Got it. Listen, pricing, there's no right or wrong in pricing, contrary to popular belief. People say you need to do, percentage of this, a percentage. Like, there's no right or wrong. Like, what you decide to price is what you decide to price. Okay. And let me also just free you really quick, is that you can price something today and change your mind tomorrow. Who's going to check you? Nobody's going to check you if you decide to change your price 2 days from now. Now, mind you, you will look a little inconsistent, right? Especially if your prices are public. But if your prices are not public, nobody knows your pricing. It's funny, I spoke with a potential customer yesterday, as a matter of fact, and she's like, oh, you're because I spoke with her two times already, and the team, went ahead, send her proposals, all different types of stuff. And I spoke with her, and she's like, oh, could you send it to me again? I was like, no. The only thing that's different is the price. She's like, oh, the price is different. Oh, this is a different price. Oh, yeah, it is a different price. 2022 prices are different today than they were yesterday, right? So again, you get to change your prices, right? Now, obviously, there are different factors that contribute to pricing. There are some people that take their personal needs into consideration, right? Like, hey, my mortgage is $3,000 a month. My car note is $600 a month, and my job is paying me X, Y, Z. I need to make an extra $3,000 a month, and I'm going to have to make sure that my prices match what I need, right? So there are people like that. There are some people that utilize the philosophy of, hey, my job pays me $35, so $35 an hour, $25 an hour, so I'll start there. There are other people that are like, I'm going to go online and see what other people are getting paid, and I'll just either make it $5 below that, or keep it the same, or make it $10 above that. Right? So again, I mean, I'm laughing about it because I've done all of these things, by the way. But there is no right or wrong to pricing. But what I will say is that if you are still working at your job and you find yourself in a position where you have to take off of work to provide service to somebody else, right? Those of you that are interested in providing training, for example, virtual training or even in-person training and coaching and strategy, whatever, It may require you to take some leave, right? Because I do believe in doing things in integrity. So do not use your job's time to work on your business and do things in your business. Don't do it. Don't do it. So essentially, a little net in here. Essentially, you want to really, if you have to leave your job, you want to make sure that if you're leaving and taking off, even though you might have leave, you want to make sure that it's worth your time, right? So you just want to keep in the consideration if your job is already paying you $25. Again, I'm just making up numbers, right? $25 an hour, $35 an hour. Then you want to at least make sure that you getting paid for that same amount of time, right? So that's just something I would say to consider. But I go into this, it's so much on pricing that I have a whole module. I believe it's module 4. I have a whole module on pricing alone for that reason, because it really just depends on your philosophy, what your goals are. I don't believe in a standard cookie cutter formula when it comes to pricing, although I do have a formula for pricing. And again, that's something that I share in the course. But if that is something that people, if they decide, there's some people that I've worked with that decided to not use the formula. They're like, no, I'll rather use this or I'll rather use that. And again, that's, nobody's going to lose sleep over that. But in the formula, I share that you want to consider the time that it takes to prep. And I also share that you want to keep in mind the time that it takes after you're done, right? The time that it might take you to research, the time that it might take you to follow up, the time it might take you to actually do the thing. For example, those of you that might be doing policy development, how long is that going to take you, right? So I share and I teach to keep so many different factors in mind. I teach people how to keep taxes in mind, depending on where you are around the globe, right? So you want to, there's some factors that you may want to keep in mind for your pricing strategy. But there's no right or wrong. You have to do what feels right for you. There's some people that I work with, I straight up told them like, I think you should be charging more for that. And here's why. But they were not mentally ready to receive the fact that they were worth that amount of money. So again, just working on mindset, they had to work on mindset. So there's one person I'm thinking about. They wanted to charge a way lower amount. And now I've spoken to them a year later, and she's now charging her worth, to be quite honest, right? So, but it took her some time, is what I'm saying, right? So again, what you charge today doesn't mean that you have to stay that same price forever. So do what feels right to you first, but just know that you don't have to stay there. Okay. Know that you don't have to stay there. I hope that was helpful. I wanted to keep this to 30 minutes. So let's go to maybe one last question. We might go a little over. Hopefully you all are okay with that. Have another question here. Awesome. All right. What are your favorite services to offer while still working? I'm so glad that I had that question, because here's the deal. Because if you're still working 9 to 5, the reality is that your time is limited versus somebody like me who has, I create my own schedule, me and the team, right? So there are certain services that you have to really be mindful of, that if you know that over the next year you're still going to be working at your job, there are some services that you want to just kind of be mindful of, especially if you don't have flexibility at work to take off and things of that nature. For example, training. Can you still offer training, while you are working? Absolutely. But you all know training is not something that's just going to be for 5 minutes. So you're going to be gone for hours at a time. You have to prepare the training. You have to do your evaluation, so on and so forth. And, for example, the team and I, we have trainings that are 4 hours at a time. We do full day trainings. So it's just something to keep in mind, right? Because again, you will be needing more time away from work. But on the contrary, let's say there may be some of you that are interested in offering resume service, for example. Like I shared with my story, my goodness, like it you can definitely do that while you're still working, because you're working with individuals that are probably not going to be home until after you get home as well, right? Policy development is something that you can work on your own time. It doesn't um you're not restricted to business hours. So that's essentially what I'm saying, is that you want to be mindful that if you are still working, that your the services that you're offering is kept in line with the time that you have allocated. I don't know what's happening with my socket. But the time that you have allocated, as well as the services that the prospective customer is desiring, right? So again, with policy development, that's something that you can do in your own time. But you want to look at things that require you to be available during business hours versus non-business hours. You really want to pay attention to that, especially if you know that you're going to still be working at your 9 to 5. Okay. So I hope today's Q&A is helpful. If you want me to do another Q&A, you have some other questions, please submit it to hello@kingdomhr.biz. Submit it there, and I will be sure to make sure that I hop on, do another Q&A to answer any of your questions. If this was helpful and you're watching it live, watching a replay, I want to know about it. Go ahead and let me know in the comments. Let me know that this was helpful. And again, feel free to either send us an email or put something in the chat regarding any other questions that you might have that you want me to answer during the Q&A. I have a upcoming program called Hire Yourself, Turn Your HR Skills into a Profitable Business. You all have been asking me about this. I usually just do this about twice a year because it just requires so much of my time, because I show up. You're getting real accountability. You are getting it. You walk away with knowing what you need to start your own HR company, period, right? And I do have a self-paced course that's available. If you go to kingdomhr.biz, you'll see the many different options. The self-paced course is actually being refined. Again, we're adding new content. We've been doing this on a quarterly basis to make sure that it stays fresh. But we do have something coming up in April, where we're doing a 7-week live program where you and other HRpreneurs will be working with me on a one-on-one as well as a group basis to go through literally everything you need to know to start your HR company. We're going to be talking about prices. We're going to be talking about the services that you should offer. We're going to be talking about your processes that need to be implemented, so that way when somebody says that they're ready to go, you have that already in place. We're going to be talking about marketing. We're going to be talking about how you get new clients. We're going to be talking about collab. I mean, you name it. We have received 5 out of 5 reviews from this content. So I have no doubt that you too will be not just impressed, but impacted by the community, but also by the content that is already available. If you are in fact interested, you want to go ahead over to kingdomhr.biz website, take a look at the courses link, and you will see all of our upcoming programs that are available. I am looking forward to working with you. And if the program isn't something that you're interested in, definitely just stay in touch. You want to subscribe to our newsletter. So still going over to kingdomhr.biz, subscribe to our newsletter so that way you can be kept in the know about what is happening. We've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and we're excited to be rolling out some new content, new material just for you. Okay, just for you. So again, I just thank you all so much for watching, and I hope that this has been impactful. I love to get feedback. I'm a teacher at heart, so please let me know if this was good to you. Say, this was good to me, Henny B. This was good to me. But if for those of you that are joining the program, again, we do it twice a year. I look forward to meeting you live via video, of course, not in person, because we have people all around the globe. But definitely stay on the lookout for that, all right? So until next time, everybody, don't forget to command your day. Have a good one, everyone.